Zoo, you got any questions for Jeff Brom?
Scott had a question.
Oh, did he now?
Did Lane Kiffin do it?
Well, let me answer that question by asking you two questions. One, is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. Two, do I or do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
Wild card weekend in the NFL, they call it wild for a reason. And typically you're going to get a lot of blowouts. Like you get the Texans at 4:00 every Saturday of wild card weekend. They always throw the Texans in at 4:00, and you can expect some blowouts. I didn't expect it to come from that side of the ball, though. I guess, Texans are the home team. They won their division and such, but I think we grossly underestimated them going into this game, especially since the curse got our ass on that one. All picking Chargers. I think majority of the nation picked the Chargers. I want to get you all's thoughts, and we'll go through each of these teams, all of the eliminated teams here from the NFL playoffs so far, and we'll start with the Chargers. Like, what are your thoughts on what comes next for them? I mean, it's the first year in the Jim Harbaugh experience. So there's some good takeaways there. There's good progress. I for one, definitely think, you get some extra receiving help for that team to help out alongside breakout rookie Ladd McConkey, and get Quentin Johnson out of there. Trade him somewhere. I mean, he's a yak monster, but you have to catch the ball first to get the yak. So, but, Khalil Mack might retire. There's pieces, there's progress, there's hope for that team, but do you think that they can continue the playoff run next year?
Yeah, don't be too reliant on the. I saw you need to check which way you had to turn for that for a little bit. I think fortify whatever bits of the defense that you need to, but whatever Harbaugh wants to do going forward, I think an offensive approach is doable. Fortify that line, give your quarterback time, and get some weapons for him to operate with. But I also think that now that Jaden Daniels has more playoff wins than Justin Herbert, you need to bring a veteran in to kind of push him a little bit. Make him scared for his job, make him earn it, make him be consistent in his play, because yes, he's a great player and it's awesome for the regular season, but it's not going to matter if you're barely making it into the playoffs every time and just totally choking every time you get in. So, I think get what you need for the defense, tidy that up a little bit, fortify that offensive line, get weapons, and make Justin Herbert earn his job.
So I'm right there with you too. There's no denying that Justin Herbert is a top tier talent in the NFL for quarterback, right? I mean, where his, I guess, lack of production goes is taking that next step into the upper echelon, the Josh Allen's, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I think offensively, you need to do something you need to give them a weapon, because as far as wide receivers go, that they're probably going to be losing this offseason. You got Josh Palmer, you got Jalen Reagor, you got DJ Chark, who are all, they flash outside of Jalen Reagor. But you can't have one wide receiver in Ladd McConkey who's 6'1", like $180. You can't just have him. Khalil Mack, I think if you do get him back, he's 34, he's aging. You might be able to get him back for a 1-year contract to try to have another crack at it. But really for him, it's going to be protection. You got Bradley Bozeman, who accounted for 99% of the snaps. He's 31. He's their starting center. You need to sign him. I know he's 31, but you can still get a couple good years of production out of him, especially experience-wise. And then to to Zoo's point, as far as quarterbacks go, yeah, there's the quarterback free agent market's going to be very, very shallow, but bringing somebody in to light a fire under him to make sure that he isn't getting comfortable probably would be the best thing. I mean, throw a Mac Jones in there. I mean, he'd be a competent backup in a Jim Harbaugh system. Light it.
You did light it a little bit.
Can I add something to do when we go down this list?
Yes.
So me and my buddy were talking about quarterbacks the other day, and just like movies, when it comes to players, I like a 1 to 5 ranking, 5 being elite, 1 being practice squad. As we go down this list, can we give a number to the current quarterback situation? Because I think Herbert has put himself at a 3 at this point.
You read my mind to where I was going to ask you, where do you rank Justin Herbert right now? Because through the first 5 seasons of his career, he has more passing yards than any other quarterback in history through their first 5 seasons, yet no playoff win. Jim Harbaugh calls him he says he's already an all-timer in terms of ability at quarterback. So yeah, where you rank him at a 3 on that list? You said 1 is elite, 5 is practice squad.
Mm-hmm. So 3 is like could win you or lose you the game. I think it's like Jameis Winston, Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's actually put himself in that realm because he's the reason that they're losing games too.
I'd put him in a 2, but a very low 2.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He's on that fence, but I have him just dipping over into the 2s.
Right. I wouldn't say. I was going to say.
I'd still take those names you just rattled off, the Jameis Winstons, the Taylor Heinekes of the world. I'd still take them over them.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd put them at. I was going to say even 2.5, but even that feels. I'll say like a 2.3.
Yeah,
right now. Yeah, like a little 2.3 where like I would still take him over like Tua. I'd still take him over. Probably a lot of the quarterbacks on this list that we're going to be going through, where I trust his ability. He's just
why a 2 then if 1 is practice squad?
I thought 1 was
no 5 is elite and 1 is practice squad. That's
see ours were back. Okay, so ours were backwards. So yeah, then I'd have him at a 4. I have him like a 4.1 or like a 4.2.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 point. Yeah.
So my brain was backwards. My bad. Damn.
My fault. I followed Scott on that one. 4.
I mean, at that point, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Mason Rudolph at that point to back him up? I mean, Mason Rudolph isn't really that big of a threat.
Yeah, so 3 is just kind of like the game manager, possible backup quarterback. 2 is just kind of like, oh shit, your backup came in. Like, can he do it? He's probably going to fuck you out of a game. You know, kind of like what Daniel Jones was last year.
And you brought up Jameis Winston. He might be like the perfect kind of backup there. Somebody that can, you know, he's a big team guy. And Herbert's not known for a lot of personality. He has the talent to start games. You know, I think he could light a fire. I just like to see some more weapons, some more offensive weapons for them, especially like, you know, J.K. Dobbins had a great season, but I still don't want to rely solely on J.K. Dobbins.
I mean,
and Gus Edwards.
You got an aging Demarcus Robinson who's going to be coming out from the Rams as an unrestricted free agent. I know he's 31, but he's equated like 75 to 80% of the snaps, like in LA, and he's right there.
Doesn't help that Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator there. Still kind of playing a little bit of a handicapped old school offense, pound and ground. If you're gonna pound the ball, you need somebody that's, you know, of that Derrick Henry kilt of sorts.
Hey, get a Keenan Allen return for a year or 2.
Wouldn't hurt.
Why not? End his career in LA.
A team that I'm interested to hear your quarterback rankings on. We have 2 that we can rank here in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost in ugly fashion. It was only a 14-point game between them and the Baltimore Ravens, but it felt like 70. Like they just got their asses handed to them by Baltimore. Baltimore felt dominant over them. T.J. Watt, 250 snaps in that game, didn't record a stat. Not a sack. He didn't record a tackle, an assist, anything. Like just completely shut down in that game. What do you make of the Steelers right now? Because we talked about this on the top 5 frauds. The Steelers have this thing under Mike Tomlin where they're limping into the playoffs every year. Like they have a hot stretch somewhere in the middle of the season where they look like one of the most dominant teams, and they piss me off. because I was calling them a team that could be a sneaky Super Bowl contender middle of the year. They fooled me. And then they limp into the playoffs, first round exit. Mike Tomlin is 0-6 in his last 6 playoff games. And then you have this typical Steelers receivers, right? You always have their star who is slightly crazy, and that brings in George Pickens. And George Pickens comes into the fray. He comes into his press conference after the game, and when asked about, some hope on the horizon and everything, he gives this fantastic answer.
George, you've been with this offense now for 3 years. Have you seen signs of growth? And how much more does this team still need to grow offensively?
Yeah, I've seen signs of growth for sure. From past, the first year I've been here, just way more growth for sure.
George, does that make you optimistic going forward?
Nah.
It's
honest.
It's the pause and the nah.
Nah.
He debated honesty.
And it's a great way to go if you're going to be the diva receiver trying to get kicked out of there. Where do we go next with the Steelers? What can possibly be done to take them over the edge? Do you have a decision between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? What do we do here, Scott?
Rebuild. Yeah, I think they're in rebuild mode kind of at this point. They have a lot of decisions to make going into the season because not only do they have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields up for their contracts, but they also have third stringer Kyle Allen potentially being lost. They have a ton of decisions to make, man. They got those three, and then you got to make a decision between Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. Are you going to try to bring both back? Are you try to bring one back? And if you do, who is it? Because they're both 27. They're both going to command some kind of money on the market. I mean, wouldn't you guys like to have a Najee Harris in Washington? At least
I would kick the tires on Najee Harris.
Right, just to see what happens. But to this point, it's just re-sign the youth and experience. Similar to the Chargers situation. Their left tackle is up for contract, and he played damn near every snap. He's 27 years old. He's going to get some money. Whatever quarterback you bring in, you need to make sure that you have the protection set up in there. So bring him back, get him. He's already established in the system, but you're gonna have to make a decision. Like you said, am I gonna bring back an aging Russell Wilson for another year or two rental and try to draft somebody, or do I just punt next year and completely understand? Look, we might not even have a plus 500 season for the first time in Mike Tomlin's tenure there in Pittsburgh, because even the quarterback crop that's coming out in the draft, it doesn't look like it's a guarantee. And like we've already mentioned, the quarterbacks coming out for free agency, I mean, outside of Sam Darnold, it's all just 1 year rentals and backups. I will say, in my Madden franchise that I started that you could not start, I did end up going onto the Steelers, and that's what I did. I did a complete rebuild. And what I did is I actually signed Sam Darnold and brought him in. I mean, if you had to choose between Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields right now, who would you pick?
To get my franchise just a little bit of reignited, I'd probably take Darnold. I would, of the three, yeah.
I think out of the three, he has the most confidence out of all three of them. For Justin Fields, I feel like Justin Fields needs to step back. And where I have him landing at, if anywhere, is going down to Atlanta to keep Michael Penix on his toes. Put him back home in Georgia, have a very comparable, comparable quarterback there for the Falcons. Have him leave there. And then Russell Wilson, I mean, maybe that's the quarterback solution you have in LA. Put him behind Justin Herbert. He can learn from him a little bit. But yeah, him, Mac Jones, potentially. He seems like a big Pittsburgh kind of guy, but it's rebuild at this point. And you have all the talking heads on ESPN and all over the place saying, well, it's only because Mike Tomlin doesn't have a quarterback. But if we all remember, Mike Tomlin's a defensive guy, and we've all seen what the defensive production has been in the last couple of years. So I feel like that's just a cop-out for Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I've been hearing a little bit about trading coaches, and I think the Steelers need to consider that. If you have Tomlin for 27 and you can trade him for a pick, then start with that. Promote Arthur Smith, make him your scapegoat, re-sign Justin Fields, lose some games. That way you don't tarnish Tomlin's record. He can just leave on whatever note, and just fire sale. Just burn it all. Like what are we gaining here by having
Dallas needs a coach.
the 21st pick? What quarterback are you going to get out of that? What player are you going to get out of that really amplifies what you like? You guys were lucky to make it to the playoffs. It was definitely a fraud team. No idea how they won the games that they won. And you're just stuck. The Browns are in the same position right now where it's like they put all this money into all these assets and they're just not getting rid of anything, and they have no option to really go anywhere. So get rid of Tomlin, let him go to Tennessee or New York or Vegas or the Jets and do something over there where there's tools, and he has the opportunity to draft early as well without tarnishing his reputation. Build something up from the ground for him, build something from the ground for the Steelers, and just get a fresh start for the both of them now.
I mean, and you also have to remember for the Steelers, TJ Watt's contract's up next year, and I completely forget how old he is. He's 32. Do you think you could command something from the market for trying to put TJ Watt up there? I mean, you still got Cole Holcomb on there. You might as well.
Yeah. You 100% could still, at this moment in time, you can get something for TJ Watt. If you wanted to do a full rebuild, a full fire sale, you could get I think you could get a first round pick. I think you look at this particular team, Washington. I could see, a late playoff first round pick going to Pittsburgh for TJ Watt and that kind of leadership approach that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn seem to like.
Managers would not give a first round for Watt.
It's like because George Pickens, his contract's up next year too. So it's if you're going to have to pay him, you're not going to be able to keep everybody.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, Pickens is gone. I think Pickens, are you going to be here?
Nah.
It's going to be.
Sounds like Jeremiah.
Oh, he was
franchise tag him for shits and giggles.
Oh yeah, just to see what.
You might be able to pick up the 5th year option on Pickens though. Was Pickens a first round pick?
Was he a first round picking?
Was he a first round Pickens?
Now go.
The rare double.
That was it. Fired. I didn't see the relevance of pause there.
Yeah, just to close out the loop on this one, I've been of this feeling that Mike Tomlin is in an Andy Reid in Philly kind of situation, right? We saw that at the end of Andy Reid's tenure in Philly. He was still a good coach. The team was still good, but it was just stale. You're with the team for so long, things just kind of it gets stale, and you get into the same cycle, into the same routine, early playoff exit, there's no up and up. You can't really figure out what to do next. I think Tomlin needs a refresher, a good change of scenery, and the Steelers could use the good change of pace to just figure out what the next step is here, figure out the next regime. Tomlin, just like Andy Reid in Kansas City, it refreshed him. He felt younger. He felt more alive, more vibrant, more creative. Same thing I believe would happen for Tomlin. Say he gets traded to the Raiders or something, which Tomlin would be a fun Raiders coach. He looks like Raiders coach. He is all that would be awesome. Our favorite game. Yeah, frozen there. I can't see him getting traded to Dallas would be awesome, but Jerry Jones with Mike Tomlin as his coach. Come on.
That's where Deion's going, man.
Yeah, come on. Okay, we'll get to that. Just to close out the loop on there, I don't see where Pittsburgh can get out of this particular hole without just blowing things up. You're probably going to lose your number one receiver in George Pickens to a trade because you can't have that person out, that attitude around the team. And what are you going to do quarterback-wise? Like, I would say just go ahead and re-sign Russell to something cheap. I don't think he's going to be pricey. And I think he could benefit from another season in that. Same with Fields, but I fully believe we know what we have in Justin Fields. I fully believe this is the quarterback he's going to be. Very limited, very athletic. Maybe Sam Darnold. There's not really anything. And if you go to the draft, I think you just wind up at their draft position with another Kenny Pickett in some form of
Jackson Dart or some random round flyer.
Quinn Ewers, if he comes out, Dylan Gabriel, you're just going to wind up with some form of that. So I don't really see too much hope. And when it comes to ranking their quarterbacks, I got. Let me give them both twos. I'm gonna give them twos, maybe high twos, but.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you, but it's like the two brothers fighting on the edge of the pool, someone trying to push each other in, and Russell Wilson's trying to shove Justin Fields into the one spot.
I think I'll give Wilson a 3 and Fields a 2.
Hey, Mason Rudolph's still out there. He should be out there. Bring him back.
I mean, it worked-ish. Let's just bring Ben. What's Big Ben doing? What is Big Ben doing? I haven't seen Roethlisberger at all. Man's grilling. Actually, maybe we should have eyes on him. I don't know. He had a pass. Moving on. Denver Broncos. They had a fun season. It was a fun, pretty fun rookie year there under Bo Nix. Second year with Sean Payton. They just had the unfortunate draw of the Buffalo Bills straw. They got the Bills. They got to take them on at home in Buffalo. Didn't pan out. I don't think there's too much time to spend on the Broncos here, but was this a one season wonder under, the rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, Zoo, or do you see this growing and continue to have a little bit of fire next year?
Yeah, I didn't watch enough of them to know exactly what they need, but I think they're confident in what they have with Bo Nix, and they just need an off season to refine that, get him the tools that he needs, just make some fine tuning and good to go for next season.
How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm not totally worried about it. I think, as much as I despise Sean Payton for my own personal vendetta against him, I'm not totally worried about Denver for next year. They got a couple people up for contracts. Cody Barton, starting linebacker there, bring him back. Try to bring Javonte Williams back for a cheap deal. He's shown flashes, but he isn't really the bell cow back that you really expected him to be. And then other than that, I mean, I think right now they are slated for the 20th pick officially.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. So go into the draft. Jack Sawyer should be there to draft. I know they use some edge rushers there in Denver. So Jack Sawyer's there. I mean, maybe Jalen Walker, the edge rusher from Georgia, he might still be there. But yeah, I'm not totally worried about Denver.
Yeah.
Bo Nix I put in a very comfortable 3 spot.
I was just about to say I would give Bo Nix a good 3 for right now. He had a very productive first year. I think met all the expectations, especially with Sean Payton. Sean Payton seemed to love him getting in. I don't have too many problems with him, and I think that he's a quarterback that could draw some talent there if they wanted, just to get some, kind of like Houston did last year, getting Daniil Hunter and Stephon Diggs. They'll get some cool veterans on that team next year and still be able to compete in a very competitive AFC West.
I'd give Bo Nix a 3 trending towards 4.
3 trending
towards
4.
I like it. 3.4, 3.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, absolutely fair. Quarterback, I'm very curious to get your score on here. Is Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. Man, spanked by Philly, and it was so irritating. Because, it seemed like Philly, you didn't get all of Philly in this game, right? Like, they gave Green Bay every opportunity to at least tie the game up, and that defense wasn't letting them have it, but Jordan Love was also just making mind-boggling mistakes in that game. I like Matt LaFleur as their coach. I like that he constantly has them as a playoff contender. I wouldn't put any heat on him yet. I wouldn't even ignite the burner for him. But what's the future here for Green Bay? I personally think they need receiving help. They couldn't help all the injuries that were happening there with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed getting hurt in that game too. They need somebody to just put them over the edge there and to help Jordan Love out, because right now I want to put Jordan Love, I want to put him towards 4. Right now I think he's a I'm going to put him middle to low 3. Right now, I'm going to put Jordan Love middle to low 3, middle to love 3, just because I don't know, Scott. He's those mistakes right there. That's not a good sign for a playoff future.
Well, the sample size is also fairly limited, right? Because this is his second year under center,
Yeah,
as a starter. So it's You could count it to being a sophomore slump, but I'm right there with you. I mean, you kept seeing wide receivers going down play after play after play. And thankfully, I mean, where they're going to be drafting from, there should be a couple wide receivers there on the board for them to get. Like if Luther Burden from Missouri is there, grab him immediately. But then you also have Emeka Buka from Ohio State. He should be around that 23 spot. I mean, you got Josh Jacobs. You're fine. You don't need a running back. We got Jordan Love. Bring back Josh Myers, your starting center. Bring him back. He's still young. Put him on like a 10-year deal so you have nothing to worry about on your offensive line. And then other than that, everyone else kind of on their free agent list are more role players, backups. I mean, Isaiah McDuffie's a nice linebacker. Eric Stokes on the cornerback side. So if you lose him, you're going to have to address that in the draft. But yeah, I'm right there with you with the wide receiver being their main priority in the offseason.
Yeah, Jordan Love is a 4 trending towards a 3 for me right now because he really will keep you in the game and he's got some great talent. But the recurring theme of that team is that they're just too young, right? They're immature, they're still developing, they're still building chemistry and all that stuff. So I really think the team needs veteran presence. I think you find a wide receiver or a tight end or a running back that has had that experience that can kind of like help fortify the culture there a little bit. Because despite how good the coaching is, I think when things get out of hand, they get way too frazzled. And we've seen what having Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and Mariota and all them in the room have like done for just kind of how people operate and think. So I think that as much as they do need to fortify their wide receiver core in the draft, they need to bring people in that kind of help add to stability and help guide that growth for them instead of just sticking around and hoping it works out.
I agree with you on the solid defense. Jeff Hafley came in as their new defensive coordinator this year, and I think defense really stepped up. Yeah, Josh Jacobs, beast, still one of my favorite players in the NFL. They can take the next step. They can get to the next level. The experience right now, losing this way and losing the first round, maybe that lights a fire. Maybe that's a motivation. I think they'll take the next step at some point, but I got more hope for them than other teams that are out here. One team that we can talk about some hope for. I'm very interested to hear one particular member's thoughts. We'll get Zoo's first here on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lost to the Washington Commanders, tight game, Sunday Night Football. Man, they were pissing me off so much with some of those hits. That defense is nasty. That defense is fun. They're hard hitting. They're pissing me off to the point I was like, yeah, I got to root for Philly if this goes forward. I got to root for Philly. It didn't get to that point. Vita Vea is still a monster. Freaks me out how just monstrous he is on the D-line. But I like a lot that's there. They surprised me this year and last year in terms of how competitive they still are. Baker is a beast. Baker, he was relatively mistake-free, and that was awesome to see in that game. Bucky Irving's fun. Mike Evans, still a beast. I'm curious if you guys will keep Chris Godwin. NFC South, I don't see them having any problem winning that division again. Zoo, do you have any concern over Todd Bowles? Because that's where and we'll get Scott's feelings towards it in a little bit, but that's my only concern is Todd Bowles because homeboy trying to figure out what direction, left, right, left, where Jaden Daniels is at halftime, like that was a little concerning. What are your thoughts on the Bucs, Zoo?
Yeah, Todd needs some consulting because he just seemed very confused and frustrated about it. Like, I'm mad that I don't understand what's happening. But I think that they have the opposite problem that the Packers do. Is I think that they just need some fresh blood. Like you see what Bucky Irving was able to do, and Baker Mayfield is a gunslinger, and it's his wit that kind of kept the Bucs where they are. But you can't rely on that for so long, right? You still need to look at maybe having another quarterback in the background to switch off of if needed, or to compete with Baker so that Baker stays honest with how he's playing. But I just they're starting to transition to having like younger players and whatnot, but it's just kind of like that weird phase where it's like you either have rookies or you have like older veterans that are, getting injured and having to deal with all of that. So it's just kind of like that fine line of like weaning some people out and grooming the others. There's really no middle ground for that offense.
Yeah. Todd Bowles, I think he's 2 years into the 5-year extension that he signed back in 2022 or 3 years into it. Or no, it's 2025 now. But yeah, so you still got a couple years left on his contract. And at this point, it's just like, you might as well just keep him. I think maybe getting another coach in there to kind of offload a lot of the stress might be nice. I mean, throw Mike McCarthy in there as your OC. I mean, why not? I mean, he was a quarterback's coach for a long time. I think for Mike McCarthy, he just doesn't have what it takes to be the man, but maybe he could be the man behind the man with less stress. But, for this year, it's a lot of the same thing. Levante David, he's 35 years old. Do you think he's really trying to come back next year unless he knows for a guarantee they're going to have a really super serious Super Bowl run? Probably not. Biggest question is Chris Godwin, because if you're going to try to retain him, you're going to have to pay him some money. And not only that, next year, Mike Evans is up for his contract, and he's 33.
Yeah.
So he'll be 34 by that time. Maybe you get him to come. You can entice him to come back for another year if there's a really serious Super Bowl run. Maybe he retires at that point. Who knows? But Chris Godwin's only 29. So if you're scared that Mike Evans potentially could retire next season and not re-sign, then you need to bring in, you need to retain a top tier talent like Chris Godwin. Now, of course, with that injury being a lower body injury, that's another thing to be concerned about. Like, is he going to be the same receiver that he once was pre his leg just blowing up? And if you don't bring him back, like, who could you bring in to kind of replace him? I mean, you could bring in Elijah Moore from Cleveland. He's up. He's semi-comparable. Like I said before, DeMarcus Robinson, you could bring him in. T. Higgins, even though T. Higgins has already stated that he's willing to take less money to stay with Cincinnati, which I think would be the smartest move for him. And then, there's four wide receivers for Washington who are up for contract this year. You guys aren't retaining all of them. You got Brown and Brown. What can they do for you? You got Olamide Zaccheaus, and then you got KJ Osborne. It's just like, you guys are going to bring all of them back, but I could see Washington making a big push for a talent like Chris Godwin next year.
I love his personality to fit this team, to fit Washington. I love Chris Godwin in general. You brought up Levante David. I was super impressed by him at his age, at the amount that he's played in the NFL. And
what's that supposed to mean?
Well, he just
35. That's not that old.
He kept right. Can you catch Jaden Daniels? Can you? The fact that he caught Jaden Daniels and the defense was still able to limit him to a degree, it was very impressive. I think the team has a solid future. Baker Mayfield, I'll give him a, honest to God, I got 3 leaning towards 4. I want to give him a 4, but yeah, Baker's been a fun time for this team. I've been very happy for you guys and for him in this.
4-1.
4-1?
Yep, we'll give him a 4-1.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a 4 this year.
Also, shout out to Todd Bowles. I just have to share this clip while we're on it.
And on defense, how do you limit Jaden Daniels?
Got to get him in long third to our left, his left, our left, his right, and we got to cut that down.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Wait, wasn't that 3rd and 23 conversion off of his right?
Next topic. on to the last team. See, I would be okay with Tampa because we have Kyle Trask right now. I don't see a future with him. Maybe my Florida State bias is coming out a little bit because he was a Gator. But Jackson Dart, he's coming out of the draft. It's not going to take a lot of draft capital to grab him. You saw what Curtis Rourke was able to do in Indiana. He should be in the draft. Riley Leonard, he could be a 7th round pick. You can kind of just bring in just to see what happens. But as far as spending a lot of draft capital on quarterback, I would not recommend that, especially if it's just to sit behind Baker for a couple of years. Because Baker's 28? He's not old.
Yeah, you got time with him. You got some time.
Bring Malik Willis in if you bring a veteran for Jordan Love.
Oh my God, him and Joe Milton. Him and Joe Milton quest is going to be so annoying for some teams this year. Oh my God. Final team here, like you brought them up. We had the Minnesota Vikings and the very curious quarterback situation there. 14-3. They're a 14-3 team. They were on the road and just got openly whooped by the Rams. And I don't like to do these cliche questions as we go into this, and I'll go ahead and give Sam Darnold a 3.
7.
Yeah, like a low 3 rating on this one. I don't think they have an issue. I don't think they have many issues going into next year. I think J.J. McCarthy is obvious. I think he's going to be the obvious answer for them. I could still see a tag and trade if they really wanted to go that route. Maybe not waste the money on that, though, and just let him hit free agency, sign another veteran quarterback, maybe Jameis Winston, to sit behind McCarthy or hold the reins while he gets ready. This is a team that's very talented. I believe a lot in Kevin O'Connell. I want to ask the cliche question. Just go ahead, fuck it, let's do it. Did the Vikings lose that game, or did the Rams win that game? Was this more about the Vikings imploding Zoo, or was it about the Rams just being that good?
Yes.
Fair enough.
I think it was a little bit of both, because I was talking to my Detroit buddy today about how it was fascinating how the Rams started off with so many injuries and trying to figure things out. And now they finally have the ball rolling towards the end of the season, and obviously now going to the playoffs. But that just seemed to line up with seeing all the flaws of the Vikings and being able to take advantage of that as well. So it really is just a weird timing that both of them were just trending in very opposite directions. In regards to how it looks next year, I mean, I think this kind of helped their decision making. Like, they can offer Darnold a smaller contract and make him fight for a starting spot. Or it actually possibly gave him tape to be able to sign somewhere else as a starter or a bridge quarterback. Like
Matt Flynn. The Matt Flynn from the Packers when he left to Seattle and then did nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so he could do nothing for the Raiders for a year, for the Jets for a year or whatnot. Like, it's not completely out on him, whether it's for the team's benefit or not. He did buy himself some time as potentially a starting or fighting for a starting quarterback in the NFL. But the Vikings definitely have to fortify that O-line. They have the weapons. They have the defense. If J.J. McCartney's coming back on this injury, you definitely want to make sure that he is safe and confident going into next season.
Yeah, they have a lot of decisions, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you got to look at their free agents right now. You got Cam Robinson, their left tackle. He's 30 years old. He's going to command a good chunk of change on the open market. So if you want to sort of solidify that line, it probably starts with trying to retain him.
He was giving a lot of pressures. He was giving a lot of pressures to the Rams.
Well, could you say that? Well, that could you say that was more Jared Verse at that point? Yeah. We saw how he played.
Yeah,
defensive rookie of the year. Florida State. But you have a really big decision between Cameron Bynum and Harrison Smith. They're both safeties. They're both up for contracts this year. One's 36, one's 27. Harrison Smith has been a cornerstone for the Vikings franchise for almost a decade and a half now. Are you going to try to try to retain him for a year or two and then let him walk? Or are you going to try to like keep the young kid in house? You know, they both I think they probably put about 85-90% of the snaps together. And then same thing with Byron Murphy, your cornerback, because he's going to hit the open market and someone's going to give him a crazy ass deal. I think really the only one above him that could command a little bit more money would be like Michael Jackson from the Panthers. But by going into the draft, that's really my biggest concern outside of interior line is just solidifying that defense, since you're going to be aging out and you're losing some pieces, whether it's cornerback or edge. I mean, where they're sitting in the draft at 24, like I said before, I mean, Jack Sawyer, edge rusher from Ohio State, he's sitting around there. If you want to try to take a cornerback from Notre Dame, Ben Morrison, he should probably be around there that point in time. So you're going to have to pull the trigger on something. And then Stephon Gilmore, he just needs to retire, right? I don't think anyone's going to sign him. You could probably get him back cheap.
Yeah, just wind up somewhere he'll wind up on some weird team like the Panthers.
Here's what you do, Minnesota Vikings. Here's what you do. Sign and trade Sam Darnold. Retain Daniel Jones. and have Daniel Jones and JJ McCarthy just fight it out.
I keep forgetting Daniel Jones was there, but yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just retain. Yeah. What are we talking about Darnold for? Yeah. We got the GOAT.
Yeah, Lego head.
Yeah.
Got Scott. Why don't you bring it up sooner?
My bad.
Asshole.
I'm still trying to like recuperate after your little Bucks comment.
Which one?
Third and 23 or whatever the fuck you
left,
said.
Right, left, touchdown.
Right, left.
To our left, his left, I mean our left, his right.